you are listening to the Footy Mailbag Podcast with Damo and Clarky.
Hello and welcome to the Footy Mailbag. My name is Damo and helping me co-host as usual is my good mate Clarky.
The D's won and everything is good again.
And this week's guest is Ben from SuperCoach Insider.
Lions are top four, boys. Coming back. Coming to get ya.
That must feel good. Does it feel good to see that turnaround? Or was it never in doubt for you, Benny?
Feels surreal. And I don't know if anyone that pays attention... I don't know if I've dropped this story before, but I had some of the bounce guys hitting us up saying, oh, it'll be great to get Ben back down to Melbourne again. And then my wife commented saying, oh, well, the way the Lions are playing, don't expect him in Victoria anytime soon.
That's rude.
So it feels good. Top four doesn't feel as great, though, as a legitimate tackle, apparently. So great to be here, boys.
No, throw the book at Charlie. He's too good of a guy. He's had it too good for too long. Ben's shaking his head, listeners.
We'll get into the suspension news in a little while.
Good move, Damo. Good duck. Good duck.
He put that one to Bedford.
Hey.
At Mailbag, we will continue until round 24 as long as you keep sending in your questions. If the questions stop, so do we. So just quick injury news. Jeremy McGovern is now listed at 1 to 2 weeks, so he's probably not coming back before round 20. So if you've got him, is he a hold or do you have to let go of him now?
I think if you've held this long, it depends on the cover. Cover in the defensive line at the moment is tough, right? With people are still dealing with what's going on with Zach Fisher. Alex Sexton got dropped last week for people with that swing as well. So really holding this long, if you've got the cover, makes sense to just continue that through. But I think there's a few really good options that you can kind of jump across to.
He was listed as 1 week last week, and now he's at 1 to 2 weeks this week after it now touching down in Perth. So they've obviously assessed it. It's worse than what they figured. So it's actually turning out to be a 3-week injury, which is the minimum that they estimated for Tuke Miller that we said was a trade out. So do you now hold McGovern for 2 weeks, given that he's now inside that threshold, or do you have to let go of him? That's probably the massive question that people will be asking themselves. And I guess it comes down to how many trades you have left and who's available out there.
Yeah, it's really circumstantial. It's depending on how many trades you've got. Are you playing for draft, your normal leagues, or for overall? I mean, if you're like the Skodfather and you probably, I think it sounds like based off his tweets, he might have McGovern and Filippo. So it really does depend how many trades you have. If you're going overall, sometimes you just have to kind of risk it. If you have cover, especially if cover plays early, I always like to just see how that rookie performs. If they get a 60, 70, 80, can I kind of hold that and take the small hit? And I think a lot of people got rewarded with that last week, actually. Some of these rookies banged off with some 100 scores, and everyone's like, oh, who needs Fisher this week when I've got a rookie getting me 108 perfect scores? So, yeah, depends on the situation. Is there a brotherhood, the McGovern brothers? Is there another set of brothers that have been injured more in their careers?
I think you'd be hard-pressed.
The Kings?
Oh, yes. Kings, easy win. Sorry.
I said you'd be hard-pressed, and then we had an answer straight away, so we're that hard-pressed.
I'm holding Queens, and you come out with the Kings. I mean...
I just wanted to ask that you mentioned something about if you have... I haven't heard of these trades.
Yeah, what's a trade?
Are these? Do people still have those? I thought they were a bit like cassettes, phased out over the course of a decade.
I'll trade you. I'll give you some of my trades for some of your ranking points. Let's put it that way.
I think genuinely, though, I think there are some really good sideways options. If you're playing for overall, you probably need to be aggressive and try to find yourself a consistent performer to replace McGovern. Given that, I think, and we spoke about this last week, Damo, actually with DR, it's just coming back to me. We found multiple sources, either it was in the pre-show or live, I can't remember, but there were some that were listing 1 week, and then another was like 4 to 6, and then another was like this could be forever. His lungs could just have to be removed and replaced. So I think this is the time to be aggressive at this end of the season.
Other injury news, Ben, you mentioned Matthias Philippou. He's out for 3 to 4 weeks with a hip injury. People were looking at him as a cheaper option as cover in the forward line. And our friend Abs Magic did trade him in for his good score of 101, but now is stuck with him because of those cassette tapes we call trades.
Yeah, went the early crow too. I mean, it's great to see the trade pay off as far as scoring on field, but sometimes when you say how great it is, everything can flip pretty quick as far as your super coach. So yeah, he is definitely another interesting one. The issue with him is that because he was so cheap and is still very cheap, you can't really go elsewhere unless you have two trades to kind of go down and then up. Going sideways from like a cheaper, not even a rookie, like a fake rookie or a cheaper, an expensive rookie as kind of 200 to 250 K player. You kind of get stuck in that situation. If it works out, it's great because you get that cheap cover player that you can loophole and everything's wonderful. But if they go down, all of a sudden you're kind of like, oh, I need someone else like him, except no one else has got a good enough role like he had. So you kind of get stuck.
Yeah, awkward price.
Yeah, 266 is a really, really hard one to jump to and from. So rest in peace.
And Clarky, Max Gawn is a test to return. Do you think they will actually put him on the long flight to Perth?
We don't need him. We got Harry Petty. Who needs Ruckman? Ruckman are a fabrication of the system, listeners. Now let me tell you, we don't need Ruckman. The AFL is going to tell you that we do need them. But really, all you need are tall forwards. Anyone can be big. You don't need a guy with specific skills. I think Max Gawn, if he gets the decision, he will play. If the decision is left out of his hands, they will rest him. I don't see any. I can see the reasons for and against. So it's really going to come down to who gets to make that final decision. I'd rather we rest him because sending him up against Darcy and Jackson after coming back from an injury when, let's face it, he's probably not going to be 100%, even if he is cleared to play. It's just not going to be good news for Maxi, but probably one to watch out for. And I guess good news Supercoach wise, if he held, maybe.
I've still got him, so do I want him back for Supercoach or do I want him not back because I'm a Freo supporter? I'm rocking a hard place.
You're going to win by 90 points, Damo, regardless of if he plays or not.
No, we're not.
If West Coast can beat Melbourne over there, I think Fremantle should have it easy. I'm a little bit twofold. I think Fremantle will be hanging out to see what Melbourne does. And I'm sure they're not going to give them a heads up, but I assume they'll name Darcy and Jackson, and then if Gawn's not named, I imagine they'll probably get rid of Darcy. That would be my opinion. Well, you're being concussed, so why don't you just give him a little bit extra run time? If it was me, I guess he would just monster. Darcy would monster anyone. You are correct, but the issue is, I think Gawn has to play because when you look at it, they're in 8th spot. Western Bulldogs, who are only 1 win behind them, have a better percentage anyway. Right, Gold Coast 1 win behind them also have a smidge better percentage than them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams 1 win behind them, and they're in 8th. So when it comes to it's the captain, and yes, if he puts his hand up, and I know it's a long fight, and generally you would say, oh, don't risk it, it's a long flight, etc. But when you're 8th and you have that many teams behind you trying to actually get into the 8, I think you just got to buckle up and ride it. So I think if he's fit and he says he's fit, I think Melbourne just have to literally roll that dice to try and pinch a win.
Fair enough. On to suspension news now, Ben's favourite topic. Alex Davies is out for 3 weeks. Malcolm Roses Jr. is out for 1 week. And Charlie Cameron's out for 3 weeks, but they're going to appeal. and Toby Bedford is out for 3 weeks, but GWS are also going to appeal that one. If Toby Bedford's out, that's good for any primos for Gold Coast, Melbourne, and Hawthorn. So Noah Anderson, Trent Rivers, Will Day, if you have any of those guys.
Clayton Oliver.
Yeah.
If you go on Rivers, Clayton Oliver got smashed by a tag. Was it Will Phillips? He had 0 ball and was not effective.
But do you think Bedford would go to Oliver just because of the impact that he probably hasn't had since he's gotten back into the team?
Look, put some roadblocks in front of Rivers and make him meander his way through. That was a geography joke.
Yep, I got it. Thanks. Clarky, it's time for your spark.
It is time for my spark, and this week we're going to look at a man who isn't. Look, I'll be honest. He's reasonably well owned. He's in 20+% of teams at the moment, but he is very well priced and has a very good run coming up for people who need cover for a McGovern, a Fisher, a defensive type, and that man is Tom Stewart. 506k on the relatively expensive side. However, he's been moved to the midfield. So he has some of that roll-off back. He has a lot more responsibilities in the midfield. Back-to-back scores of 115, 105, and then a 97 before that. So in 3 of the last 4 games, he's tonned up. I don't think I need to say more. I think he's got that new role. They're really relying on him to kind of lead, and Geelong have a really good draw coming up. Western Bulldogs, North, Adelaide, Freo, St Kilda, and West Coast. That's it. That's the pitch. This is the whole pitch. We're moving away from the diamonds in the rough of Tom McDonald.
That's fair. I've been pitching Tom Stewart for about 8 weeks, so it's finally great to see some value come forth.
Yeah, his role of attending the centre bounces and then rolling back to the half back line is probably freeing him up from having that tag or that hard tag that he was having. So it'll be interesting to see how teams combat that moving forward, or if teams combat that moving forward. But yeah, the role's working for him, and it's producing good results for SuperCoach teams.
Did you want me to do something? I can pitch someone more cooked if you want.
Speaking of more cooked, I'm surprised we didn't get onto the bloody MRO and the thing a bit more. I just lightly dipped my toes in it, waiting for you guys to fire up saying how bad and how cooked the whole system is, and then nothing. You move on, and I feel like,
Damo, we didn't stop for ice cream at all on this drive-through, and now Ben is left wanting.
I'm seething. I feel like I've ordered a Happy Meal. I've through the drive-through. I get home, open the bag, and there's nothing there.
Do you think that Toby Bedford and Charlie Cameron situations are similar, like everyone says, or do you think there is definitely one that was worse than the other? Or
I think Bedford's is slightly worse.
Okay.
Like, I understand, but at the same time, you're chasing after someone and they get the ball and then you get onto them. Imagine if you got full speed, and most of the acceleration in players now anyway is that's what they test them for, that 0 to 40, that acceleration, that drive forward. Your momentum is automatically driving forward with pace. So as soon as you hold on to someone, it's your momentum, their momentum. It's an issue. I actually quite liked, I think it was Jared Waitley or whatever his name is, was talking about 3 years ago at court cases. They were talking about what a reasonable person would do. And it was a reasonable person, if you held on to it, it would be your momentum, would be, some of the, the summation of forces and blah, 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 blah. You'd end up in the ground, and it would be unfortunate that person would get injured. And now a reasonable person would know that by latching onto someone that you are putting them at harm. So between 3 years, it goes what a reasonable person would do to now, and the reasonable person doesn't exist. So I'm really happy that they both challenged. As soon as they got thrown out, I was like, I hope they take it all the way to the high court if they need to, because I don't say this often because I like a lot to do with the game, and I feel like the community that will listen to this probably see the same thing, because we are seething inside as far as what we feel to be unjust. However, the AFL CEO is like, oh, but we've got the crowds are bigger than ever. We've got bigger members than ever. Or the TV ratings are better than ever. I'm like, yeah, because you have general people that don't know who's playing every single week. They show up, who's playing today? Wonderful entertainment. Thank you very much. Pat on the back, and they go home. that's what's appealing to a lot of people, and they probably have no idea. And the AFL, thanks them for the money and says, thank you very much for our entertaining product, and they move on. Whereas the actual genuine fans are sitting there going, what the hell is happening to our game? But they don't give a shit because the money's coming into their pockets. Sorry for swearing.
No, that's right. We're a swear podcast now. That we're not
Fucking
under
A.
the thumb of now that we're not under the thumb of Daddy Jock Reynolds. I think this is really important as well.
Thumbing by Daddy, sorry. That's the drive-by thumbing Clarky.
Yeah,
Go on.
that's it. The Clayton Oliver special. That's a. I feel like that's an in-joke to a group chat. Damn, you might have to cut that. My thing is, right, this conversation as a whole, right, this tackling conversation goes too quickly into the establishment of, oh, the game's gone soft. Ooh, and nobody can do anything anymore. Like, this is a woke snowflake game, which I think is really poor for some of the discussions that I've seen in relation to this. I don't disagree with you, Ben. I think that there is like a level of, right, we need to understand what a reasonable person would do and then measure the impact on that. I think the biggest failing of this entire process isn't, oh, okay, we need to protect the player, or, we can't tackle in certain ways anymore. It's the fact that they put in this nebulous idea of, well, the players should be able to do this, instead of actually testing to see whether it's reasonable, whether it's possible. And they expect some of these guys to have superhuman reflexes, right? Which is, they're only high performance athletes, they're not superheroes. So by lacking a definition of what's reasonable and what should be expected of a player, and having it clearly and repeatably executable by a player, really is where this all falls down for me.
It's like the Tom Hanks movie where they're like, oh, but the plane crash thing, whatever. I can't remember what it's called. Sully. And there's like, oh, but as soon as the birds hit the engine, bang, all these pilots turned around and they made it home. He's like, okay, so how about the time to actually process what's going on? And then when they actually review all the footage, it's like, cool. You might have 25 frames a second, 40 frames a second, whatever the cameras they got. Let's just slow that down. Here's an opportunity that they could have actually decided to choose something else instead of actually realize these people are humans and they don't work off that split fraction of a second, frame by frame decision making as far as reaction. But I understand, and I think you need to protect the head. I think the game and the players are doing a lot to actually contribute to that, to actually minimize the risk. However, at the same time, there is going to be risk involved. I mean, like we said off air, like give everyone headgear and say, here it is, a measure to protect yourselves. If you choose not to wear it, then you accept some liability that you might actually get hit in the head.
Yeah, footy's a game that can change in a matter of seconds or a series of seconds. And the tribunal is expecting players to be able to change their action within the action to protect the player that they're tackling. But because of how quickly the game unfolds, it just happens. And it can be the player's momentum, either that you're tackling or from the tackler, that affects the result of the tackle in the end. And like there's no there's no foul in basketball where everything resets. There's no replay of second down like in the NFL. Like the AFL has to realize that the game moves so quickly sometimes that you can't stop, prop, and grab your opponent, and by that time your opponent's probably halfway down the field lining up for goal. Like that's how quickly the game can go sometimes, and the tribunal now needs to tell players what action they should do instead. And if I use the Alex Davies explanation, the explanation was basically he had great technique, but he shouldn't have used great technique in this instance. And it's like, so if it's great technique, then what technique should he have used? Bad technique, but would bad technique have injured the player more, or would bad technique had injured Alex Davies? Like
you can use good technique, but you just can't go in too hard or tackle too hard, or
Yeah, so the AFL now needs to work with the MRO and the tribunal and that sort of guideline to work out what a player can do instead, rather than just sort of being like, yeah, nah, you did it wrong.
Well, this is the thing, right? And I don't know if you guys view this the same as well, but there's there's real confusion in my yard where I'm like, are they punishing action or are they punishing outcome? Right? And until they define what the action needs to be, rather than this nebulous, oh well, you can't protect the head, you can't pin both, but you can sometimes pin both arms in certain circumstances, as long as you gently, like, you don't let them hit the ground, but that's okay. And I understand that it's a dynamic game, and like you're saying, Damo, there's circumstances that are going to be out of control. But until they make a decision on, are we punishing outcome or are we punishing action, you can't really move forward in a consistent way. Because if they go, well, we don't want people doing, it's like striking, right? You don't want people punching people. So the definition of, like, if someone throws a punch, you get massive amounts of weeks, right? So if you don't want people tackling in a specific way, you need to be clear about what that is, right? We've got this case where Taranto and Bedford are now, not Taranto, Charlie Cameron and Bedford are facing these charges. And generally people are just confused about, oh, well, but that looks like what they want. Like, isn't that how it's always been? Nobody's ever said that that's not allowed, but because of the outcome, they're now going, oh, well, no, but he got injured, so therefore it was bad. But that's not the case, right? That's not always the case. There's probably 100 tackles that are exactly the same and nobody gets injured that'll let go.
Yeah. And AFL will look at the statistics and go, oh, viewers are up, memberships are up, people are still going to the game, and that means everyone's complicit. No one cares if he's suspended. And to be fair, like, I didn't know a lot of the players' names before I started playing SuperCoach and actually playing in depth and knowing all the different players and all the rest of it. It's not the first time I've felt this way about the MRO this year or last year. There was all the tackling, Sicily and some others. It's not the first time I felt this way. It's not just because there are Lions players involved. When you look at the footage, I just feel, I don't know, lost, disheartened, let down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can completely agree with that. As
not angry, just kind of like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? And it's so easy to turn fans on each other as well, which is probably one of the other biggest takeaways of this, which is, hey, we as fans, we should all be having really civil, constructive discussions about this. Operate in good faith of the footy fan with you, whether they agree with the suspension or whether they agree with what's going on. Like, it's okay to have disagreements. It's okay to have opinions, but make sure you treat people with respect, right? Operate in good faith in that. And that's the only way that we as fans can help push the AFL to be better.
And most fans on Twitter or most fans listening to SuperCoach content are generally diehard fans. So,
yeah,
opinionated, and they will go to town whichever way, their ideologies shift. So, which I get. And I, do your thing, whatever. Like, to each his own.
All right, let's get back to SuperCoach and let's get into the listener questions. That was a great discussion. Ben, did you enjoy that?
I did. I haven't potted in a while, boys. So that was like a bit of dust off the, what. And I love chatting footy, guys. So anyone that has missed me, let me know, because I've just been sitting here in solace. And when you extended the invitation, boys, I couldn't help but say yes. And I love chatting with you guys.
We love you too.
Excellent. All right. So this first question comes from Ro. He wants to know, I've got 200K in the bank and 3 trades left. He still has Tuke Miller and Zach Fisher on the bench. He's got Young, Humphreys, Manor, and Dowling all scoring well and covering just fine. Does he hang on to the injured pair, or does he upgrade them to the best available on mid and defensive lines?
All I'm saying is, the quicker you use those trades, the quicker you can just sail to the end of the season stress-free. Join us on the other side, my brother. Join us in the calm rivers of no tradesville.
Sail on calm seas or capsize, one or the other.
That's fine.
Adelaide play first, so straight away I'd say see how that rookie goes would be my first suggestion. Fisher should be back or fit. North got pumped a little bit, so I'm hoping they'll bring him back into the fold. So he should be back into the mix. Otherwise, he's not in their plans just yet. I think Tuke has to go. So for me, it'd be Tuke up to any premium that you feel is, best top 10 if you're going for overall. And I'd be looking at someone your opponents don't have if you're going for leagues.
200K in the bank, he could almost go Tuke up to almost anyone. So
Oh,
He's
and
got
what's that in
he's
Thai baht
got
though?
option.
Thai baht, that's a lot of tuk.
You
So
can't believe you set him up for that, Damo.
yeah,
Damo
So-
stepped on the landmine.
and I can't recover. So the answer is hold Fisher, hope he returns, but probably all right to use one trade to upgrade Tuke Miller.
Yeah, I think we'll know this week for sure where Fisher is at in terms of the North plan going forward for the rest of the season. So get rid of Took, see how Dowling goes, and you know,
Surely Fisher plays. I mean, he can't be lost at sea, right?
Sailing, capsizing, lost at sea, Fisher. My God.
we're all in the same boat, guys. Don't worry.
Oh, you got me there.
That's
Hook,
good. We
line,
got it.
and sinker.
We got
And
it.
we've been caught in a tidal wave of puns.
Oh, hey, this is Supercoach chat, so the scaling there was great.
Moving on to Nathan's question now, I think. How do you know who to loop and to maximize scores? So last week he had 2 tons on the bench that he couldn't get on. And this week he looped Humphreys and took his 108, but had to bench Martin or McKercher. He decided to bench Martin and cost himself 63 points because Martin, the turnover king, scored 142 in the wet. So the question is, how do you know who to loop?
I usually just go. It depends on who you're looping with, right? Who your non-playing players are and where they are. If you're say you have like a Zach Reed on your defensive bench, right? He's not going to be good for looping this week, so you kind of got no options. But you know, you got to look at who's playing in which order and try to bank your emergencies on that. Deciding who to go on field and off field with. That's a much harder decision to make, especially when the people that you usually have to pick between these roller coaster guys, right? Like last week, I had the emergency on Lawson Humphreys, took Humphreys 108, put Clayton Oliver on the bench. Clayton Oliver scored 100. My other option to move off would have been Tom Green with a 93. But objectively, I would have said GWS had the better matchup. Melbourne were playing in the wet. Clayton Oliver just had a really good game. So you need to not beat yourself up about what's already happened. Once it's done, it's done. You can't control that. Nick Martin 142 in the wet was
that
crazy.
hurts.
Yeah,
that
hurts.
But yeah, you never know. And if you're always going for the greener pastures, sometimes it's like, hey, you've got cover or you've got an extra premium. Consider yourself lucky because there's some people that don't. And then if they fire off, then you're just going, okay, I'm banking that score, knowing that the other, the person you might replace them with could go better. However, they could also get injured on 7. They could also get tagged or have a bad game. And it's just the roller coaster you take. You never know, not definitively, but you can just go, do I want to bank 108 definite points or do I want to ride the gauntlet? And I had a friend of mine who actually wrote it and was trying to toss up, do I get rid of Walsh? Do I get rid of Rosie? And then it's like, well, Rosie just came off 160, so that'd be pretty crazy to do that. And then I was like, Walsh is probably bound to, maybe bounce back. He also could go really well. And in the end, he goes, I'm going to back them in. And both of them scored less. So you never know either way. All you have to do is make a decision. My friend made a decision to back his players in, and it wasn't that short. And in the end, what'd you lose? 30 points or something, 37 points. It's not great, but that's probably one of the best games Martin's played in the last couple of months. So just be thankful. Hopefully he's in form and hopefully he'll pay you back with dividends this week.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is literally just look at the matchup and see if there's any, like if it's a mid, look to see if there's any predictable tag. Look at, if you're looking at the forwards, what's the defensive like? How is that team actually playing? Use your on-field knowledge to inform this to a degree, right? And then roll the dice that way.
Take any forward. If your bench goes well on the forward line, take it. I played Kernow the other week when I had a perfectly good emergency score. Forwards, take anything you can get.
And all I'll add to that is DFS Australia has a great tool called Defense versus Position, where you can actually look to see how an opponent's matchup will go against their position. So there's designated kickers, general defenders, key defenders, wingers, midfielders, general forwards, key forwards, and you'll be able to see how the team that they come up against, whether they give up a lot of points or whether they're fairly restrictive to that position. So there's some great tools out there. DFS Australia is a great tool that everyone loves to use, or a lot of people love to use. So I recommend them if you're looking at looping at any point, just to put your mind at ease, give you a little bit more research before heading into the weekend. Next question comes from Wayne. Who do you think will be the best ruck combo for the remainder of the year?
Ruck combo is in for the team, or
So,
R1, R2 and SuperCoach?
So R1, R2 for the last 6 weeks of the season. Who do you think will be the best combo?
Nankervis and Grundy. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Nang's been good though. Hey?
He's been really good the last 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks even.
So I'm just trying to look at matchups. It is very much matchup dependent.
Max Corner's been injured, so he loses a little bit of ground on that. If he's back this week, I can probably see him maybe just hunting up, depending on how the Ds go overall.
Grundy's got Big O, English, and then Port, Collingwood, Essendon, Adelaide, so he could go all right. The thing I actually like about Rucks this year is it is quite even. And either way, pick someone you like. I'm still waiting for English to go on a run of good games. He just hasn't been consistent.
Yeah.
Which lets me down. I've also been impressed that Darcy's actually, developed a lot in picking up the slack. So is it wishful thinking that English could actually dominate like he should and has? Or is it more going, Grundy, Cherry, Nankervis, they're just killing it and just back in any one of those top 5? That's a good question. I'm going to say go on in English because they've done it before.
As owners of those two, I hope that they are the best combo for the remainder of the season. But I think the best combo for the remainder of the season will be Grundy and Cherry.
No love for DeConnick and Briggs.
No, DeConning's been so good. I actually sold him for a first round pick and keeper. Not gonna
lie. I have been very happy in one of my keeper leagues because, and I want to shout out Lloyd Meek in this one because he has had just a really good season, like a really solid season. And I have an old ruckman and a young ruckman in my keeper league list. And my old ruckman is Omac, and then I've got Lloyd Meek, and they're just every week just absolutely killing it between the both of them. So it's good that my club has a future.
Clarky de Koning, mate. North Melbourne. So like Cherry, right? So great ruckman, but also when you look at mobility as well, I think once it hits the ground, de Koning's just crazy. Port Adelaide, right, should dominate at home. Collingwood, I think his mobility again will be great over Cameron. And then you've got Hawthorn, so a slower Meek, and then West Coast, and then Saints. You know what? I'm going to hop on the train, the de Koning train. I'm going de Koning number 2.
The biggest asterisk on that is if Pitney plays.
No, they can't play him now. You want consistency. He's done too well. He had the best 2 or 3 run stretch, according to champion data, from any ruck ever. You can't do it. And I just think they just have to do it. You don't want to change it up coming into finals. They need to get some continuity in their list, and they're playing faster, better footy. He's shown the development. Give him the reins.
All right, and Wayne's got a second question. Pretty quick answer here, so we'll just one-word answer for this, and then we'll move to the next one. Sam Walsh, hold or trade? Clarky?
Hold.
Ben?
Gorilla.
Sure. And I'll say hold. So you've got 2 holds and a gorilla.
Gorilla strength. Extra hold.
All right. Next question
I got it, Ben. I wasn't with you.
Next question comes from Troy. Who's shaping as your first pick in each line next year?
Ooh, that's a tough one. As I bring up the list of current defenders, I think I will still be starting Harry Sheezel next year.
If we assume players are keeping their current positions, within reason, of course, for me, my first pick defender will probably be Jack Sinclair.
Oh, that's horrible.
Trent Rivers?
She's all playing too much mid at the moment. I actually think there's still a lot of scope for Luke Ryan, and it could be because I got burnt by him just now. But Sheezel, if he's a defender, still has to be. Dacos won't be. So if Sheezel a defender, Sheezel.
All right, Ben, what about your midfield? Who's your first picked in the midfield?
Nick Dacos.
You want to expand on that?
Well, he doesn't tackle, so he's not going to get suspended, boys. So Nick Dacos, natural. Nah, I'm kidding. Natural progression, just sheer talent. He's someone that is only going to get better. It's the reverse of red wine. You don't have to bottle him for long. He's just an exceptional talent, and I think he will be top 10 in any position from now on.
Clarky?
That's tough for me. Like, there's the obvious ones, but I think a lot of the midfielders that I really like take a few weeks to sort of get into the season. So like the Lockie Neals, the Zach Merritts, those types. So I'll probably see myself starting with Bontempelli next year. I haven't done it before, and you know what? I've had enough this year. This is like, I'm going to cross it off my list next year of having a year where I start with Bontempelli and can be one of the crowd.
Depends who goes deep into finals, because a lot of the teams in the top four, the midfielders have probably started a little bit slower. That's why Zach Merritt was so great, because he didn't play finals last year.
So when we say first picked, are we saying that we think they're going to be our M1, or just first picked for price, or what are we talking about here? Because
when you say first pick, I literally just think the first person who I'm like, I absolutely cannot miss like this guy. Like, I cannot be missing this person.
So Christian Petrarca will be priced at an average of 103.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, he's probably going to be my first pick in the midfield, but he's not going to be my M1 by the end of the year. I'm not crazy to think that, but I just think priced at 103, given what he can do, he's going to be way too cheap to ignore.
Oh, bring in Clary and everyone else there, Clarky. We should have Spleen it coming.
Oh, that hurts, but it's also funny.
Okay. Clarky, first picked in the ruck.
Lloyd Meek.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow.
If he has really announced himself this year, I think. I can just see that sort of progressing as Hawthorn get better and better and more consistent. And you know what? I'll say it. I underestimated Hawthorn this year. I think they're a lot better of a team than we give them credit for.
Fair enough. Ben, first pick in the ruck.
Oh, I'm lost in the ruck. I was going to say Moyle, but Moyle stayed with the Suns, which kind of kills him. So, English for youth and hope.
You really nailed it before, Ben, when you were saying like this year for rucks, and I think even next year, it's just going to be so much more fun because there's not like a clear, you have to have it's only these two guys. Like
that ruck question was great.
Yeah.
Just because I've been saying his name for like 18 times an episode for the last 3 weeks, Tristan Sherry is going to be in my team next year.
Was he not in your team this year?
No.
So you'll be popping your Sherry next year?
Yes.
I tried to give Cherry to Swizz in a keeper league earlier in the season when he wasn't worth as much. And he's turned me down about 4 times, guys. He could have got him for a future second round or something less. And now his value just keeps coming up.
You know what? People underestimate the value of those positions sometimes in keeper leagues, and it baffles me. Now, forwards.
The forward line.
Oh.
No, thank you.
I'm going to get in early, Bailey Smith.
Yeah, he's on my list as well. If he keeps his forward eligibility, which you'd hope he does, he's not going to be a Bulldog the next season that he plays. Yeah, Bailey Smith. There's every chance that he'll be everyone's F1 as well.
Can they get rid of his DPP if he hasn't played any football?
They've done it before.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. That's disheartening.
They've also given players DPP even though they haven't played it for a whole year. So I don't understand how they work it out.
I don't like any of these forwards, guys.
They suck. What happened to Taranto, Dunkley?
I'll tell you a forward. He's not going to be a primo, but he's going to be nice and cheap for next season. Elijah Hewitt at the Eagles has missed the whole year with a foot injury, and they're getting him primed for preseason now. They've ruled him out for the rest of the season. No point rushing him back. He's going to be about 200k in the forward line next season. He's going to be a popular rookie pick next year, I reckon.
This year I started with Aaron Cadman, and I've just checked as well. He is almost got his way all the way back down to his starting price, so I might just start him again next year, get that cash gen and trade him out again, because it's been a nice little arc for him.
Yeah, there's been quite a few. I'm even thinking, what's his name? Western Bulldogs.
Sam Darcy?
No, it was a first round pick. It would help if I could actually have a look.
Sanders. Garcia, Fraser, James Harms, Rory Lobb.
You are no good at this.
I didn't say I was good.
Buslinger.
Yep.
So they extended his contract. He's been borderline. And we're talking someone who had high aerial ability, but also a high kick to handball ratio. So I think it was extremely high numbers for that. And also great disposal efficiency via foot in his juniors as well as up to now. Still kicking more than handballs. So all the things that make SuperCoach great. Still hasn't played a game, but being close, and they've re-signed him. So as soon as he actually gets a gig, I'm all in on the bus.
All right. Don't linger too long on the bus, though. Some fun questions to finish off.
This bus, says Ben, halfway through the season.
Hey, Damo's driving this train. Or bus.
Some fun questions to finish off. First one comes from Lekdog. Who from the SuperCoach community would you prefer to be stuck next to on a long-haul flight?
I feel like this is a trick question because I feel like the obvious answer is Lek, because anyone who knows Lek, the person, Lek is perfectly fine with a comfortable silence, and that's almost perfect for a long-haul flight.
Clarky, I've been in a car with him on whatever freeway it is to get to your house. And let me tell you, he breaks up those silences very quickly.
I almost appreciate it though. He called me once while I was at dinner to give me a review of one of my podcasts, and I loved every second of that phone call. And it just ended with, "Okay, love you, bye." That man is a gem. There's a lot of really good choices out there, Ben. I'd be interested to see who comes to mind for you.
Well, I was in two minds. If I want to quote movies, Chris from SuperCoach Insider will quote movies all day, every day, and just vibe and banter with. If I wanted the positive affirmations and a good guy that's going to tell me it's going to be okay, kind of like 51st, no, not 51st Dates, The Wedding Singer, everything's going to be okay. See, movie quotes. SuperCoach DR, I think, is an absolute fucking rad guy. I don't see him enough. I don't speak to him enough, but every time we hang out or talk, man, the guy's just an absolute ledge. So if I could sit next to him for hours on end, I reckon we'd vibe it for sure.
Damo, what about for you?
Cane Corns.
Oh God, no. I'd rather stick myself on the wing and hope I don't fall off. I reckon I'd like to sit next to Tim Mitchell.
That's a solid choice.
I like he would talk your ear off about SuperCoach the entire time, but at least it would be an all right conversation.
Yeah, you'd be in your element, really,
Yeah,
Damo.
yeah.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my second option behind Lekdog, which is Joe from Center Bounce.
He's
Joe and I vibrate on a very similar frequency. Damo knows this. Damo knows this on the episodes that we've been together, and we would have a lovely time. We got to meet in person finally at the SuperCoach event this year, and that was just an amazing time. Joe, if you're listening, baby.
Joe is so charismatic. My wife
Yeah.
bans me from speaking to him.
He is, isn't he? And it's such a hard choice. There are
He's such a nice guy.
There are so many beautiful people out in the SuperCoach community. So if we didn't mention you, it's because we don't love you as much.
I'm actually really proud of the SuperCoach community and content creators over the last couple of years because there are some genuinely nice, lovely people that actually makes it quite nice.
And we've had a lot of them on this show.
Yeah, including Patch. Patch is another person. Can I have 3 seats together, Damo, on this flight?
You can have whatever you like, mate. It's your plane.
Please.
You design
Excellent
it
news.
however
Yeah.
you like.
This is good.
And Lex the bicycle.
Bless.
All right, now this next question is a throwback to our very first episode, or one of our very first episodes. Does Alex Pearce still have the best hair in the AFL?
In terms of quality of hair, I would say his hair looks beautiful. Does he have the best haircut in the AFL? I think he's got some competition now.
There's definitely competition, and one of them resides at your club, Ben. It's Bruce Reville.
Oh, what? I was getting ready for some Ashcroft love. I'm thinking
Prince
flowy. You know, doesn't even need product in his hair. It's just the right amount of thickness. It blows with the wind, but then returns back to its original place.
There's some good-looking roosters at the Lions. I'm not going to lie, but Bruce Reville looks like he could have been an Earth, Wind and Fire.
This is Damo's entire like basis of this question is he looks like he could be from Earth, Wind and Fire. Damo's favorite band.
I'm assuming Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to say that it could be possibly, was it next year? Kako? Kako, the guy with dreads.
Doesn't he have like the same haircut as Reville though?
Pretty much, except he's younger, which in Keeper League terms means he's at least 20% better.
Oh god, I've just seen that. That is certainly a haircut.
He is going to hit up Heppel at Essendon when they pick him up for free, basically, and going to get some real tips there, boys.
We know Heppel has a dreads guy. We know. I'm
going to say Ashcroft or Bailey Smith, depending on whether you're into the long surfy look or into the good guy look.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd go like Ashcroft is really, really strong. Just like I've never seen a man who has a haircut that looks like it matches the club. Because it just looks like it could be like a lion's mane. Like it's so perfectly set. I want to give a shout out to 2. 1. Colton Tholstrup, I think, has a great haircut, but only when he wears the speed dealer shades.
I was watching a Melbourne game and I saw him pick up the ball and I was disappointed he wasn't wearing the shades out on the field. Like,
so
looked like a completely different person.
There's a photo of Colton Tholstrup for people who don't know, and he's got like this sunglasses. They're basically just a visor, and they're like mirrored, like bright reflective glasses. He looks like a speed dealer. And in a way, he is.
But he looks magnificent at the same time.
Looks magnificent. Beautiful. I love, like, the curly locks. It's very, very old school. But my second one is Mabia Chol. Mabia Chol is giving, like, Wesley Snipes Blade vibes. And I am absolutely here for it. Like, it's just such a good, clean cut. It suits him. I think it looks great. Like, I'm a big, big fan.
It's Timu Blade. It's Not even Aldi Blade.
No. You're thinking of Radigalia. Radigalia is
No,
is
I know the
Aldi, Idris
difference.
Elba.
I know the difference. That's ill of you to assume I can't distinguish between the two of them. That's a horrible haircut.
Nah,
It's
great.
almost like a BMW that's got the pinstripe, except they just missed the mark. It's a horrible haircut.
I'm absolutely here for it. Like, I think it's with the combo with the mustache as well. Like that motherfucker's looking to ice skate uphill.
So, to answer your question, Con, does Alex Pearce still have the best hair in the AFL? No, but it's debatable who does.
It's the safest pick.
With no more games on Thursday nights this season, our traffic lights will be posted on Fridays once Sunday teams are confirmed. This way, we get as much team information as possible. If you don't know what our traffic lights are, we'll grade some players each week, and they will either be awarded a green, yellow, or red rating. Green indicates a good pick, yellow is a watch or hold, red is a trade or a void, and a player could earn their rating for several reasons, including, but not limited to, scoring potential, job security, price point, reliability, or injury status. And I definitely did not post last week's before the Sunday teams were confirmed.
And because there's no Thursday night games, you are stuck on amber.
Actually, this Thursday night, I am doing a card opening on the Footy Mailbag Twitch. So
Go follow that.
At 6 p.m. Melbourne time, come and join me opening a whole box of select footy stars. And we'll have a nice
Twitch
chat.
demo?
And we'll look at all the cards I have.
What's the Twitch demo? Drop the link.
It's Footy Mailbag Live.
Done.
Yep. It's
Twitch
on our link tree, and which is all on our website and everything.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Clarky,
Now,
you're up.
it's give me a second. Now, it's time. The time of the week where we talk about our captains and vice captains. Now, gentlemen, Ben, as the guest, I'm going to go to you first. Who is your vice captain of this week?
Okay, vice captain this week. I will go Bontempelli as my vice captain.
This is all right.
Well, look, mainly because there's a few games there. Saints, I don't really own any Saints players, so that's fair enough. It's a toss up between him and Dacos. Dacos against Hawks, but probably gets attention. Hawks leaked quite a lot of points to midfields, and Bont had a bit of a lower game last week. I feel with the top 8 on the line, this is the time when Bont shows up. When it's football time, when it's finals time, they need to win. And I don't care where he plays. I think he's a great VC or C option this week.
It's very safe. Damo, who are you plopping your little blue bubble on this week?
So last week it was on Zach Merritt. This week it's also on Zach Merritt. I haven't moved.
Is this just out of convenience or?
Essendon play Adelaide at Marvel Stadium, and Friday night, earliest game possible, perfect for a VC, and Zach Merritt's having a great year. So I think it all lines up for him to have a good game.
Well, that's nothing better than that.
Except for Butters.
This week for me, my VC will be going on. My only late loop is an Eagles player, so it'll probably be on Zach Merritt against the Crows, just because that's probably the best option I have before the Eagles St Kilda game. I'm not really looking at Tom Green. I'm not really looking at Flanders, and I don't even know if Adelaide Crows have a SuperCoach viable mid anymore. Ben, who have you got your captain on this week?
Oh, it depends if Gorn's named. If Gorn's out, depending on what they're doing, I think, and depending on Shrek. If Shrek's out, Gorn's out, Jackson's my man. Otherwise, I'm probably looking towards, Sarong. Secret little shout out to Butters, though. I think will tear Richmond a new one, especially with Taranto out.
Absolutely. Damo?
They're my two.
So, once again, last week my captaincy was on Butters. This week, my captaincy is also on Butters. I haven't had to move my captaincy combo this week.
Yeah, good shout.
So, for me, my options pretty much wide open. But I have been continuing recently with a good form of Lockie Neal. I know they're coming up against Sydney, but it's at the Gabba, and Neal has just really proven that he is just willing to step up at times when they need him, regardless, and has just really had a safe floor for me as a fallback captain option. I don't dislike Max Holmes at GMHBA against the Doggies. I think that could be just an interesting one, and in my fuck it, let's just do it territory. But also, as you said, Ben, Max Gawn, if he's named, probably a half decent option. If he's not named, Luke Jackson, a very good option. Sarong has been down, but you can't keep a good man down forever. And Charlie Kerner might kick 10 on North, or he might kick 1-9. Who knows? But if
These have been leaking a little bit in the midfield as well.
my only concern would be Alex Neil-Bullen doing another run with Roll.
Yep.
He's been doing that a lot lately. To be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they just start putting Clayton Oliver on someone and just go, start running with people because you're not really having the impact that we need you to have, especially with the way they're just looking to shake things up.
Look, I'm not going to lie. I kind of came in not really looking at the draw, and I probably sit more with Damo than I sit with myself. So...
That's fair.
Well, but like once I said Bontempelli, I was like, Butters plays at the same time against Richmond, no Taranto. So I was like, well, Butters is actually a really good shake. And then I'm like, if I'm going Butters, because after that point I don't really have much. So then going back to the fold, I was like, oh, Damo actually makes a lot more sense because he seems like a rational, reasonable person that is well rehearsed.
Damo is the most well thought out part of the mailbag.
Am I?
You're the male, I'm the bag.
And what
I'm
does
more
that make
I'm more of a
Clarky?
Hessian. I'm more of a Hessian sack.
You're the handle.
Yeah.
Because we handle you.
And just like a bag, Damo carries me into the next segment, which is
And
hopefully the end.
and that's it for this episode of the Footy Mailbag. Thanks for joining us, Ben. Where can people find you?
I've never seen a man want to exit a podcast quicker.
Yeah, they can find me at 12. SCInsider100 on Twitter. Generally speaking, SuperCoach Insider, YouTube, Facebook. You know where we're at.
And as always, thank you, Clarky, I think.
You're welcome. You can also find me on the Falcon Footy. We're a footy podcast. We have new episodes every Tuesday, and we released an episode this week, which I think might be one of our better ones, where we all discuss how we would be good/bad coaches, and it involves a Saturday spa day. Good for the players, good for recovery. So make sure you give us a look at Falcon Footy Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
If you haven't given us a rating on your listening platform of choice, please do so. It helps new listeners find us. And also make sure you check out SuperCoach rings at supercoachchampion.com for a Super Bowl style ring for your league winner. They also do NBL SuperCoach, AFL Fantasy, and BBL SuperCoach rings as well. So they are available all throughout the year, all throughout every format.
Fantasy Premier League is starting. You can get a ring for anything. You don't even need an occasion. If you just want a ring, you can order one. No one's going to stop you. Just says champion.
That's cheating. Damo, where can people find you?
I'm sitting right here, so people can come and find me right here.
Please don't go to Damo's house.
Falcon Podcast, underrated too, Clarky.
Thanks. We appreciate that. You can find Damo at Damo SC since he won't plug himself. Or you can find him on Twitch on Thursday at, Footy Mailbag Live?
Footy Mailbag Live.
Footy Mailbag Live. Damon's going to open some cards. I won't be there, but I'll be in the chat well-wishing.
Is that a new season of cards, Damo?
It's 2024. Yep.
And are they still running the same kind of, select cards, etc., that you're aiming for?
Yes. Yep.
Very good. Make sure to visit our website as well, thefootymailbag.net. Head over there for links to our social media and merchandise if you want to support us. We've added some new designs this week. And there's also a link to our Google form for listeners who don't have social media but want to get involved. Thefootymailbag.net is the website, so head over there and take a look. This is what I say, Clarky. You plug the website however you want to. Go nuts.
That you weren't supposed to read that part.
I know, but I did, and that's funny. Is that funny?
I don't
I'm
know. Is
reading off the
is it funny?
It's very Anchorman-ish.
It's very funny to me. Go fuck yourself,
Uh,
San Diego.
Thanks for
No,
listening. We'll talk
Thanks,
next time.
listeners. We love you.